want to talk about the movie Yule Log from director Casper Kelly. Now, Casper Kelly may not be a household name like James Cameron, but you need to know who Casper Kelly is because Casper Kelly made one of the most ingenious short films I've ever seen. If you're someone who's a fan of your kind of late night uh, adult swim entertainment, you've seen like bizarre, fake, half-hour long commercials for products that don't exist. And Casper Kelly made a short film called Too Many Cooks, which was kind of a parody of a 90s sitcom opening that goes on forever in a way that is so brilliantly creative. I know you know what I'm talking about, Too Many Cooks. If you have not seen Too Many Cooks, I can't tell you the number of people. I probably sent you a text message about it because I can't tell you how many friends I said, "Oh, you haven't seen Too Many Cooks? You got to see Too Many Cooks." It's just, it goes on and on and on, and it becomes horrific. And then you go back and rewatch it and you realize there's all this stuff hidden in Too Many Cooks that's just sort of in the background. It just keeps upping the ante. I love it. Well, Yule Log premiered, I believe it was Sunday. Correct me if I'm wrong. Casper's about to join us. The latest Rick and Morty episode played, and without any fanfare, without any announcement, there was a Yule Log. And this is a type of video. I'm a huge fan of what they call slow TV, like screensaver type TV. I have a whole file of just Yule logs. There is a Star Wars Yule log where Darth Vader is being cooked for hours. It goes on for like 5 hours. So many great videos of this slow TV. Well, he took this concept and literally the beginning of Yule Log. So Rick and Morty ends. This Yule Log is just, you're just seeing it in the background. Suddenly somebody walks in the room, like a cleaning lady. Like, what's going on? What is this? Then a young couple enters this place. The stakes raise. You realize like this isn't just a Yule Log video. There's a whole story. A man is about to propose to the woman he's in love with. And then a killer Yule Log comes to life and begins to murder people in horrible, horrific ways, too graphic to describe on this channel. It's bizarre. It's unlike any like a type of like killer. I mean, have you ever heard of the movie Deathbed, the bed that eats people? That's a real movie. And this is in the vein of that. Doesn't take itself too seriously. It's as funny as it is gruesome. Welcome to the show, Casper Kelly. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Casper.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
As a Gen X filmmaker, it is a special honor to be on your radar. I'm very thrilled. As a longtime fan of you guys and Film Threat, it's an honor.
God, Casper, that means a lot. Thank you. It's good to meet another Gen Xer who doesn't care about any. We don't care. We're the F it generation. We're like, hey, live and let live, whatever. I'll do my thing. Before we talk about Yule Log, I can't believe I'm talking to the guy who made Too Many Cooks. Tell me what was the development of that? I love the fact that like Adult Swim will just make this programming basically for people who are baked at the end at late night, right? Like that's all the programming is like, yeah, what do people who are high or just like late night and they have the TV? I miss those days where the TV went to snow and there was like, they had the Indian on there with the test pattern. I miss those days of just like, oh, TV's over. It's like life's not happening. But what led to Too Many Cooks?
I think I got interested in just that idea of comedy that repeats until it's annoying and then it gets funny again. Like how Andy Kaufman had this routine where he would read from The Great Gatsby and then as a comedy routine, and then as people started to walk away, he would put down the book and act like he was going to start a regular routine. And then when people settled back down, he would pick up The Great Gatsby again and continue reading. And also just David Letterman, how he'll repeat a joke and on his show, and it would be funny and then not funny and then funny again. So it started, wanting to do something like that, and then sitcom openings with characters turning around and smiling just seemed like a funny way to do that. I don't, yeah. And then lastly, my original idea was to do that for a full 11 minutes, and I asked my boss at Adult Swim, Mike Lazo, what do you think? You think I can do it for 11? He's like, well, I don't know if you can do it for 11. Try it. Maybe you might need to start zigging and zagging at some point. So we built it from there.
But it works so well to the point where like the title cards are like coming alive and doing crazy stuff, and it gets into this bizarre murder story, and it just there's even like a kind of a Wonder Woman reference at one point that just like, oh my god, it's so people in the chat, I know you must have seen Too Many Cooks at some point. I can't tell you how many times. The fun thing also about it was to show it to someone else because you could see their reaction, right?
Yes. And after that came out, Linda Carter followed me back on Twitter, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and now she's probably banned. Who knows?
Yes. Well, we won't talk about Twitter now.
Well, you mentioned Mike Lazo. I've heard his name so much. I'm trying to remember if I met him maybe at San Diego Comic-Con at some point. God, the name is so familiar, but I really have loved the creativity and the sort of creative freedom that Adult Swim gives. It seems like all of its shows. Like, yeah, I don't know, try it. It's weird. Like, what is that? I mean, like that atmosphere has obviously led to not just Too Many Cooks, Yule Log, but so much other great stuff that I'm sure you were involved in. What is it? What's that creative atmosphere like?
Oh, it was so wonderful. I worked there for decades now, and it's just heaven. And but now I'm a freelancer, so I work for other companies. And don't get me wrong, there's other great companies. I want these jobs, so please. But there's some situations when you have a job with another company where you'll get notes that are longer than the document you had turned in. While with Lazo, it would be more like, fuck it up more. Or, it gets a little boring. Make it more fucked up, which is a great note, Or he would pick a small thing like that talking beer can. That's funny. That's your show. Give me more of that talking beer can or whatever. So he was and he retired recently, and I said this at his retirement party, is a lot of people are motivated by fear, a lot of executives. But he created an environment where he kept things cheap enough, and he was really motivated by boredom. He did not want to be bored, which is a great direction, because I don't want to bore him either. I want to be entertaining. So, yeah, that was working at Adult Swim.
Well,
and now Michael Oline is there, who is a showrunner himself, created Harvey Birdman, and it's continuing.
Well, you getting a lot of love in the chat here. Let's go to some chat comments and questions. Eric Jimenez says, "Too many cooks, too many cooks, too many cooks."
Yeah, we're getting a lot of comments like that.
Oh yeah.
Now you guys are getting it stuck in my head, and that's not fair.
Imperfect says, Gen X here can confirm I don't care at all. So ride.
It's kind of fun and low pressure to be between these two towering generations that are much huger than we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Imperfect, ride every joke until the wheels fall off. And then TPPT says Adult Swim is freedom for artists. Can you confirm that?
Yes, I do feel that. Yeah, they gave us a lot of. I mean, there's still a lot of things I feel like could only be done there. After all these years and people wanting to do things like it. I mean, there's other great companies as well, but it's a brand. Like when you hear something's adult, it's like HBO. When you hear something HBO, you're like, oh, okay. And when you hear Adult Swim, you're like, oh, I'm interested. And there aren't a ton of those.
Brock Samsonite says, from what I understand, Lazo is very involved in the creative process. How different is it to work with him to a traditional producer with less input?
I feel like he gave us more. I think I would disagree. I think Lazo was less involved. I guess there would be some instances where he didn't think something was working, and we would call that, you would get under his microscope, and then he would maybe start tinkering with it. But if he basically thought what you were doing was working, he would leave you alone. And one other, and I'll quit rambling about Adult Swim, but one interesting thing is he just had a very small department. He did not have very many other executives, so they were busy. So they didn't have time to micromanage as much as other companies might that have like a big team of executives. So that's another way to keep it lean and just keep it to the point.
Speaking of Adult Swim, we should mention that the formal title is Adult Swim Yule Log.
Oh, there you go. That's the formal title. Okay.
Yes.
Brock Samsonite, Too Many Cooks gave me a few nightmares, but oddly enough, they weren't terrifying, just disturbing. So then Toxic Waltz N8 says Adult Swim, along with Toonami, changed the game culturally. Its impact cannot be fully registered to anyone who didn't live through it. And then I have watched Too Many Cooks a ton. It and This House Has People in It are some of my favorite one-shots from Adult Swim. And then so Amanda Nowicki says, love the goblin in the background. And wait a sec, did you?
Oh, wait.
Yeah, right
Yeah. Stockholm says, you also did the cheddar goblin in Mandy?
Yes. That's a thrill. I mean, to be a part of that movie. I love that movie's a masterpiece. So
yes.
To be a part of that is a thrill.
Yeah. Too Many Cooks is fantastic, says Graham Robbins. Brock Samsonite, there's too many cooks in the damn kitchen. And let's see.
Can I ask you, what is your comedy background? What brought you to this point with Adult Swim that you're able to work for them and do content for them?
I started out very briefly. I went to film school of a kind at North Carolina Chapel Hill, and then moved to LA. And I was doing a cartoon strip in weeklies, sort of like Life in Hell, because that's a Gen X thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's a boomer. You know what I mean? That was the time to do weekly cartoons. And I somehow got a job at Cartoon Network doing promos in my 20s. And I did stuff like we had a Scooby-Doo thing, and I'm like, well, I'm going to do a parody of the Blair Witch Project. And we went out in the woods and shot live action footage and then comped in the Scooby-Doo gang, animated in there. And then it kind of grew from there, and then I slid over to Adult Swim. Like one would slide into DMs. I just slid gradually over there from Cartoon Network.
Well, let's see. More, just some more comments here. Let's pivot to talk about Yule Log. Finally, someone confronts the horror of the Yule Log, says Patrick Lemire. And another quick comment here from Kenny Kanthik for $15. Thank you for your support of the channel. Had to donate once I heard about Too Many Cooks. Happy Friday, gentlemen. Have you ordered your broom shakalaka? If you haven't seen that, it's a crazy Adult Swim infomercial. I haven't seen that one, but I love those. The Adult Swim like fake infomercials are brilliant.
I think that most of them are on HBO Max now, and they're great. I'm a fan. Like, there's another one called Mops, which is a 80s sort of teen sex comedy, but it's played at like quadruple speed, so the movie is in 11 minutes, but you can follow all of it because we're used to those kind of movies. That's by Todd Rohal. It's really great.
Yeah, I should mention Adult Swim Yule Log is on HBO Max, along with the infomercial series, the entire series.
And Patrick Lemire asked a question for you, Casper. Did you work on the greatest event in television history?
No, but I love that too. Do you know what that is, Chris?
No.
Oh, it's these hilarious shorts where they make a big deal, contemporary comedians and so forth. They make a big deal out of exactly recreating a famous sitcom show open. And they did like Heart to Heart and Too Close for Comfort and another one. And it's just hilarious to see. I can't remember. I think it was Amy Poehler is in Heart to Heart, but it's just recreating all those shots that are burned in our mind. It's very funny.
Oh my God. I would just like to see them bring back Battle of the Network Stars.
Oh my God. Yes.
I was so invested in that as a kid. They would get stars from ABC, NBC, and CBS, and they would do really stupid, like three-legged race or just like dumb stuff, and they would just fight, and it was dumb. It was stupid. CBS wins, like who cares? But they maybe Battle of the Streaming Stars.
That's a great idea.
That's
Yes.
You could
Like you and Mr. Beast in a potato sack race. I'd watch that.
Why not? Let's see. Zavin says you have appreciable artistic visions, Casper.
Well, thank you.
Greasy Guido says the first act of Yule Log for 555. Thank you for that. The first act of Yule Log is amazing. I was impressed as it seems like some of those scenes were one long continuous shot. Is that accurate?
Yes, they had to be because the camera is locked off. There was no cutting. And that was scary because there's no flexibility there. But I'm glad you appreciated it.
Yeah. Well,
thank you, Greasy Guido.
I just was looking for it, like, because you've seen those movies that brag that, oh, this is a very long shot, and I'm trying to look at like where you might have cut, and like even like the cops show up, and I'm like, are they cut? Did they cut or did they not cut? Like, what's going on? And it was great. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
The Joker says, I loved the Blair Witch Scooby parody. Those were some really fun days watching Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network or adult? Yeah.
Yeah, that was on Cartoon Network. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I just did these bumpers and I designed it so that you could put them all together and make a show because I was trying to make a show even then.
Zavin asks, Casper, what are your biggest horror and comedy influences?
Oh, that's a good question. I definitely think comedy, Mad Magazine, Sam Raimi, Coen Brothers. I'm probably missing a bunch. And horror, I'm a late bloomer with horror because it scared me as a kid. I saw The Exorcist this year for the first time.
Oh my God.
But but I always loved like American Werewolf in London, and I saw what was that for the director did the Hobbit. Why am I blanking on his name?
Oh, Peter Jackson.
Yeah, well, those first two movies, Meet the Feebles, and then he did this other one, which is the most slapstick, violent thing I've ever seen.
Frighteners, that one?
What's that?
The Frighteners?
No, it was before the Frighteners. It's bananas. Like somebody will have their chest is shot out, and then there's a battle through the chest hole. Yes. Oh, someone said Ralph Bakshi. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So, and then I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre a few years. I'm late to that, and Phantasm, and those blew my mind too. It's kind of fun to see these so late.
And then Broxham says, I'd be interested to see what kind of game show comes out of Casper's mind. And
well, I like those Japanese game shows. Those are some weird ones.
Oh my God, they're crazy. Solomon Thornton says, thank you, sir, for my childhood. I would watch Adult Swim even though I wasn't old enough to watch it. I salute you. And
that's how it should be watched. Because we grew up like that. Because growing up, we only had kids fare for a limited amount of time. So most of our time was watching stuff that wasn't really meant for us,
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those things of like, we had, I'm old enough to remember when Saturday morning, that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And when the funny animals came on around noon, you saw humans, it was like, oh, that was the end. You had to wait, until the next. And I also love when they did the previews. Remember when they would do the preview of what's going to be on the new Saturday morning season? And they would do
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I got a Blu-ray of a bunch of those. Yeah.
That exists?
Oh yeah. We'll talk after. I'll find that for you. I found it online and I'm like, yeah, sign me up. Also, like after school, they would have like, here's a Twilight Zone and then an Outer Limits, which is an even weirder Twilight Zone. I'm like, yeah.
True. Let's see. I saw Eric Amanda says, I saw the movie on Sunday on Adult Swim. It was the craziest thing I've seen in such a long time. I loved it. And Spidey Sensei.
Thank you, Eric.
Spidey Sensei 72 must have shown up late. Is that a cheddar goblin behind him?
Yes, it is. I'm not reversed. Here we go. Yes, there he is.
There you go. And our final question here. I have another guest about to join us. But I gotta say, Casper, it's just amazing to meet you and watching your work for years. I didn't realize you were Gen X, which sort of Gen X and punk rock sort of attitude kind of all blends in. So It's a pleasure to talk to you here. But this is our last question here from Flaccid Phoenix. What is your dream project?
Oh, that's a great question. I want to make more movies, and I would love to say the premises of them, but I want to hold back and surprise you. But I after making this movie, I've got the bug. I really want to make more. Oh, I would love to do an anthology show. I really want to do that sometime. I've tried. I'm going to try again because I have a weird kind of Black Mirror type of thing. I would love to do that.
Well, I would love to see something like that. I think that we're more in need of a Black Mirror type show than at any time in history. We really need science fiction and fantasy that kind of looks at the madness of our times. I think that would be a lot of fun. I'd love to see it. And then people you're just getting a lot of love. Brock Sam said, "Thank you, Casper. Your work is amazing." Dude, thank you for coming here. And I didn't realize Yule Log is now on HBO Max. You know, just you can see it now, and all those infomercials. I guess I'll just, HBO Max has an Adult Swim section. Is that right? Like,
yeah, they have these hubs. Like they have a Turner Classic Movies hubs, and I love it. It's probably my favorite streaming service. It's really good.
And not just because you work for them. I feel the same way. That and Netflix are kind of like my two favorite. There's just so much new and more interesting material on those. I always seem to find something to watch. So great. We're going to have to end it there. Casper, thank you so much for joining us on the Film Threat Livecast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're amazing. And maybe your publicist can connect us. I'd love to find out where to get that Blu-ray and chat with you. Love it.
Awesome. Yes. Let's change the emails. All right. Awesome, guys.
Take care. Thanks again.
Right.
Later. Bye-bye.
Bye.